Hollywood legend Robert Redford, popularly known as Bob Woodward for his role in the movie All the President's Men, finally revealed a shocking truth. Behind the fame lies a life marked by unimaginable challenges, from career roadblocks to heartbreaking personal losses. How did he battle through tragedy, defy expectations, and still emerge as one of the most respected figures in film? Get ready to dive into an untold story of a man who became a symbol of strength, survival, and success. Charles Robert Redford Jr. was born on August 18, 1936, in Santa Monica, California, to Martha Woodruff Redford and Charles Robert Redford, an accountant. William Redford is his paternal half-brother. Robert attended Van Nuys High School, where he was a student of baseball pitcher Don Drysdale. He has described himself as having been a bad student, finding inspiration outside the classroom in art and sports. He hit tennis balls with Pancho Gonzalez at the Los Angeles Tennis Club. Raised in a middle-class family, Redford's childhood was colored by the challenges and optimism of post-war America. His father, initially a milkman, transitioned to an accountant, while his mother, Martha Hart, was a dedicated homemaker. Navigating his early years during the tail end of the Great Depression and World War II, Redford developed a strong connection to nature, a passion that would later fuel his environmental activism. After graduating from high school in 1954, he attended the University of Colorado in Boulder on a baseball scholarship for a year and a half, where he was a member of the Kappa Sigma fraternity. He got a job at the Sink, a local restaurant and bar. However, during his time at Colorado, he began drinking heavily, which ultimately led to the loss of his half-scholarship and expulsion from the university. Seeking direction, Redford traveled through Europe, spending time in France, Spain, and Italy. Upon returning to the U.S., he studied painting at the Pratt Institute in Brooklyn and took classes at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City, where he discovered his true passion for acting. Redford's career was anything but smooth. His career began in the 50s in New York City, where the actor found work both on stage and on television. His Broadway debut was in a small role in Tall Story, followed by parts in The Highest Tree and Sunday in New York. His attractive appearance aided him in securing romantic and youthful roles, yet he aspired to transcend mere physical attractiveness. Redford gained fame on Broadway for portraying Elizabeth Ashley's husband in Neil Simon's Barefoot in the Park. He also appeared as a guest star on numerous television drama programs, including A Naked City, Maverick, The Untouchables, The Americans, Whispering Smith, Perry Mason, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Route 66, Dr. Kildare, and Playhouse 90, Tate, The Twilight Zone, The Virginian, and Captain Brassbound's Conversion. After a few unsuccessful roles, Redford found a niche in George Roy Hill's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, which made him a major bankable star. He won a British Academy of Film and Television Award, BAFTA, for that role, as well as his roles in Downhill Racer, 1969, and Tell Them Willie Boy Is Here, 1969. In 1973, Redford experienced an almost unprecedented 4-year run of box office success, including the Western Jeremiah Johnson's, the romantic period drama The Way We Were, the crime caper Reunion with Paul Newman, The Sting, and the romantic drama The Great Gatsby. He became the first performer since Bing Crosby in 1946 to have 3 films in a year's top 10 grossing titles. In 1976, Redford co-starred with Dustin Hoffman in All the President's Men, which landed 8 Academy Award nominations, including for Best Picture and Best Director. The film also won the New York Film Critics Award for Best Picture and Best Director. In 1977, Redford appeared in a segment of the war film A Bridge Too Far, then starred as the past his prime rodeo star in The Electric Horseman. Redford made his directorial debut from 1980 to 1998 with the critically and publicly acclaimed drama film Ordinary People. His next film, Legal Eagles, was only a minor success at the box office. Redford did not direct again until The Milagro Beanfield War, a screen version of John Nichols's novel of the Southwest. Other directorial projects include the period drama A River Runs Through It, based on Norman Maclean's novella, and The Exposure Quiz Show. Redford, a major star throughout the 90s and 2000s, returned to mainstream success as a director with his third film, A River Runs Through It, in 1992. He played a popular role in Indecent Proposal, Up Close and Personal, and The Horse Whisperer. Redford was a leading environmental activist and narrated the IMAX documentary Sacred Planet. In 2013, he starred in All Is Lost, directed by J.C. Shander, receiving acclaim for his performance. He was nominated for a Golden Globe Award for Best Actor, Motion Picture Drama, and won the New York Film Critics Circle Award for Best Actor. In 2014, he played Alexander Pierce, the main antagonist of Marvel Studios' superhero film Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Redford played bank robber Forrest Tucker in The Old Man and the Gun, 2018, which received a Golden Globe nomination. In August 2018, Redford announced his retirement from acting following the completion of the film. However, a month later, he expressed regret, stating that he regretted announcing his retirement due to the uncertainty of his future acting career. In the late 90s, when Redford was just beginning to find his way as an actor, he met Lola Van Wagen, a vibrant and intellectual young woman from Utah with strong roots in her Mormon faith in Los Angeles. Lola was different from the women Redford had known. She was grounded, passionate, and shared his love for nature and the outdoors. On August 9, 1958, Redford married Lola in Las Vegas just as his career was taking its first steps forward. While their wedding reception in Vegas remains a secret, we can reveal that Lola's grandmother's home hosted a second reception on September 12 of the same year. Together, Redford and Lola had 4 children: Scott Anthony Redford, Shauna Jean Redford, David James Redford, Jamie, and Amy Hart Redford. For nearly 3 decades, Lola was the woman by his side as he transformed from a struggling actor to a Hollywood icon. They built a life together. Far from the noise of celebrities, focusing on their shared values, Redford and Lola's love story started brightly, but they faced challenges that tested their bond. In 1959, just a year after they married, Redford and Lola faced an unimaginable loss. Their first child, Scott, died of sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS, at just 2.5 months old. The grief over this tragedy cast a long shadow over their marriage. Redford, a private man even then, rarely spoke publicly about the pain, but it stayed with him. Scott's loss was something he carried quietly, and the strain it put on their relationship was difficult to ignore. Through the years, Redford buried himself in his work, and as his fame grew, so did the distance between him and Lola. Still, they built a family, and Lola became a historian and environmental activist, supporting his career and raising their children. But after nearly 30 years of marriage, in 1985, Redford and Lola decided to go their separate ways. Their divorce, while amicable, was the end of a long chapter in Redford's life. He has always spoken of Lola with respect, recognizing the important role she played in shaping his early years. In 2001, 16 years after the split, Redford told that the relationship had come to a natural end, it was mutual, and it was right to move on. We still have wonderful love, outstanding affection, and great friendship. Our children's resilience is truly remarkable, and I believe we deserve commendation for it. I never wanted to be one of those predictable divorce showbiz casualties. I wanted to show that a marriage could last and prove the business wrong. But I couldn't. Redford and Lola never publicly announced a separation or divorce, but in 1982, entertainment columnist Shirley Eder reported that the pair have been very much apart for several years, questioned the finality of the divorce in 1991. Numerous websites claim they finalized their divorce in 1985. For years, Redford kept his romantic life private. Tabloid headlines linked him to a few women, but nothing became the subject of his personal life. Redford had always been protective of his personal life, preferring the solace of nature to the chaos of Hollywood parties. He retreated to his ranch in Utah, focusing on his passion for the environment and independent filmmaking. During this time, he was learning to navigate life as a single man, balancing the pressures of his career with the need for personal peace. He had seen firsthand how fame could intrude on a relationship, and after Lola, he was determined to keep things under the radar. Then, in the 1990s, Redford met Sybil Sagers, a German-born painter. Their relationship began quietly, almost unnoticed. Sybil, like Redford, was a creative spirit, an artist who channeled her love of nature into her work. The two shared not only a love for the arts but also a commitment to environmental causes, which became a central part of their bond. In 2009, after years of being together, Redford and Sybil married in a small, private ceremony in Hamburg, Germany. Sybil understood Redford's need for privacy and solitude, and they settled into a quiet life together, spending much of their time at his Sundance estate in Utah. They lived a life far removed from the Hollywood spotlight, surrounded by mountains and nature's tranquility. Redford's relationship with Sybil was characterized by a sense of peace, unlike his first marriage. Their union was based on deep, quiet love, as both had lived full lives before finding each other. Together, they collaborated on environmental projects and artistic endeavors, with Sybil's art exhibitions often reflecting the natural beauty they both cherished. Now that we have understood Robert Redford's remarkable rise to fame and his numerous achievements, it's time to talk about the heartbreaking realities he endured throughout his life. Do you also know that behind Hollywood's success and legendary status lies a life touched by deep personal tragedy? Showing that even the brightest stars have their own most challenging moments. As a child, Robert had polio. In 2011, the famously private Robert Redford surprised everyone when he agreed to cooperate with author Michael Feeney Callan on a book about his eventful life. And one of the many intriguing revelations that emerged was the actor's bout with polio as a child. It began when he was just 10 years old, returning home exhausted after a day out on a paddleboat in Los Angeles. He said, "I barely made it back to shore." Robert Redford faced a health scare that terrified his family. He was diagnosed with polio. He said he was experiencing severe physical and mental discomfort. "Every day, Mom sat by my bed with wet clothes and swabbed my eyes to open them. She kept me going." During Redford's childhood, the disease, which had the United States in its grip before the Salk vaccine, was a pervasive threat. Fortunately, the case wasn't severe, but despite this, the future Hollywood star spent several weeks in bed at the age of 11 after overexerting himself during an ocean swim. He told NPR in 2018 that the mid-1940s were a frightening time to contract the condition. Before the discovery of the Salk vaccine, the fear of polio always hung over your childhood because all you saw were people in iron lungs. This experience occurred in an era when polio victims were confined to a machine called an iron lung during the polio epidemic. Seeing many individuals dependent on these machines during the outbreak was a stark reminder of the devastating effects of the disease. Redford's statement highlights how common and haunting this image was, leaving a lasting psychological impact on those who witnessed it. While his encounter with the disease was less severe compared to many others, the psychological shadow of polio loomed large, sparking a lifelong appreciation for health and resilience. One of the most touching elements of Robert Redford's legacy is his tribute to Jonas Salk, the creator of the polio vaccine. Having lived through the fear of the polio epidemic, Redford directed a segment of the documentary series Cathedrals of Culture that focused on the Salk Institute for Biological Studies. In a 2014 interview with he reflected, "I was around when the polio epidemic was still a threat, so when Jonas Salk invented the vaccine, it was just earth-shattering news." This tribute was more than an appreciation for the Institute's dedication to saving lives. It was a deeply personal thank you to the man who may have helped save his life, along with countless others. Unknown to many, Robert Redford had a reputation for being a troublesome teenager. That's right. The now hugely respectable Hollywood star spent much of his high school years causing trouble. Robert Redford was once part of a street gang in his hometown of Van Nuys, and like many boys, dangerous dares were part of their daily routine. Regrettably, Redford almost lost his life due to one such dare. He might have been the golden boy of cinema, with roles in films such as Butch Cassidy and The Sundance Kid, but Robert Redford has now revealed that before he made it as an actor, his childhood was filled with crime and violence. In his new autobiography, Redford discloses his involvement in a street gang and the frequent beatings he endured from his fellow gang members. In one incident, Redford recalls that the gang challenged him to leap off a relatively high building as a way to demonstrate his resilience. In his 2011 book, Redford revealed that he faced his fears early on. "You have two choices, it seems to me. Your fears can guide you, or you can conquer them." After proving his manliness once and for all and narrowly avoiding breaking every bone in his body, the rest of the gang allowed a young Redford to continue wreaking havoc. Their primary source of entertainment was petty theft, with alcohol from nearby stores being a particular favorite commodity. When Redford was just 16 years old, the worst incident occurred when police pulled him over and discovered stolen jewelry in the car's boot. However, his father Charlie convinced officers that Redford was unaware of what was in the car boot, leading to the dropping of charges against the actor. Robert Redford, now in his 80s and still active, remains one of the last surviving stars from Hollywood's golden age. Over his 6-decade career, he has achieved recognition at the Academy Awards as both a filmmaker and actor, founded the Sundance Film Festival, and received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Yet, despite these accomplishments, little is known about Redford's personal life. Redford had suffered more hardships by the time he first appeared on screen in the 1960s than most do in a lifetime. And sadly, his later years haven't been much kinder, either. From childhood illnesses and near-death experiences to marriage breakups and several devastating losses, a look at his life reveals that being an award-winning movie icon doesn't make you immune from problems. Robert Redford moved the audience at the Utah Women's Leadership Celebration at the 2018 Sundance Film Festival to tears with his emotional tribute to his mother. Martha Redford sadly passed away in 1955 from a hemorrhage at the age of just 40. A blood disorder she had contracted during the stillbirth of her twin daughters 8 years prior was the cause of her death. According to the Hollywood star, admitted that he hadn't made things easy for his mother as a teenager, but that she always stood by him. She believed that despite everything, she just had faith that I had something in me that was going to turn out okay. Sadly, Martha didn't get to see her faith repaid. Her son made his screen debut 5 years after her passing. Robert went on to sing his mom's praises further, complimenting her smile, adventurous spirit, and positive attitude. He also told a star-studded audience, which included his longtime friend, actress Jane Fonda, that he wishes he'd appreciated her more when she was around. I took her for granted because that's the way kids were at that age. I regret that she passed away before I could thank her. Robert Redford first experienced grief when he lost his uncle, who'd served as a second father figure to him during his early years. The actor regularly missed out on spending time with his actual dad, Charles, due to the long and unsociable hours he kept as a milkman. As a result, a young Robert developed a close bond with his uncle David, an All-American all-rounder who was not only quite the football player but could also speak no fewer than 4 different languages. The pair would reportedly often spend time on the football field practicing their throwing techniques. General Patton's Third Army drafted his uncle into the Second World War, once again leaving Robert without a strong paternal presence. Sadly, he never returned home. David lost his life in 1945 when a crossfire caught the jeep he was traveling across a Luxembourg bridge in. In 2013, Redford told NPR, "The family dealt with it, it just wasn't talked about. It happened without much discussion. It was what it was. I believe the family structure inherently incorporated that. There was no discussion about it, and everyone moved on." Robert Redford may have waved goodbye to the criminal life as he entered his late teens following a run-in with the police. But that didn't mean he was ready to become an upstanding member of society. Indeed, while attending the University of Colorado, the future star built quite the party boy reputation. In his 2011 book, Michael Feeney Callan noted that despite Redford's rise in popularity in the drinking circles, he remained a controversial figure. The author doesn't mention exactly what went down in the Kappa Sigma fraternity that a young Redford belonged to. However, given his expulsion from the college after only 18 months, we can't imagine it was a pleasant experience. But that wasn't the end of Redford's education. After losing his scholarship, he spent time learning how to paint in both Florence and Paris and later studied at New York's American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Thankfully, the University of Colorado did not impose a blanket ban on any other Redfords, as 2 of the star's children, Shauna and Jamie, later gained acceptance into the institution. Robert Redford's life seemed to be going smoothly towards the end of the 1950s. He'd just become a married man after walking down the aisle with Lola Van Wagen, made his Broadway debut in, and became a parent for the first time with the birth of his son Scott. Tragically, his world came crashing down one day in November 1959 when the 10-week-old Scott passed away from a condition that would later be termed sudden infant death syndrome. Understandably, the incident devastated Redford, who believed he was responsible for not checking in on the baby earlier. and it took him more than half a century to open up to the public about the grief he experienced. Quoted the Out of Africa star in an unusually candid 2011 interview, saying, "It was really hard. We were very young. I had my first theatre job, which didn't pay much. We were unaware of sudden infant death syndrome, leading us, as parents, to place the blame on ourselves. It leaves a scar that never fully heals." Robert Redford faced the very real prospect of losing his second son, Scott, just 3 years after the tragic death of his first. Not only that, but his wife Lola's life was also in the balance. In 1962, David James Redford was prematurely born. His diagnosis of hyaline membrane disease gave the baby only a 40% chance of survival, according to biographer Michael Feeney Callan's book. But luckily, both the baby and his mother pulled through. "It was a colossal relief for us," Robert explained. The Oscar winner had previously hinted at the hardships that his children faced over the years in a 1998 chat with People Think It's Been Straightforward for Me. That's challenging to live with. It's so untrue. When your children have problems, it's the hardest thing in the world. For the sake of my family, I don't want anyone to know about the numerous hits our family has endured. In 1983, tragedy struck Robert Redford's family once again, particularly his daughter. In a mysterious event, Shauna Redford's journalism student boyfriend, Sid Wells, was fatally shot in the back of his head at his University of Colorado apartment. Thane Smyker, his roommate due to pay rent that day, quickly emerged as the primary suspect in the shocking slaying. Despite his arrest, a grand jury failed to charge or indict Smyker due to a lack of evidence. Remarkably, no one has seen him since 1986, and reports suggest that Smyker may have fled America altogether, as evidenced by the discovery of his abandoned car in Beverly Hills that year. In 2010, the plot grew more intricate as new evidence surfaced, leading the district attorney's office in Boulder County to approve an arrest affidavit. However, despite issuing age-progressed mugshots to the public and intensifying the search, Smyker remains at large. In 1997, Redford, who attended Wells' funeral after initially deciding to stay away due to fears of press intrusion, said as reported by, "It's like a partially open door with a very dark room behind it." Robert Redford and Natalie Wood were two of Hollywood's biggest stars, but their relationship began as teenagers at Van Nuys High School in California. Redford, a hotshot athlete, was serving as a school assembly guard when Wood, a student who resumed the school year late, raced up to him to ask for a door. Redford refused, and Wood, who was already angry, called him an a-hole and walked away. The two did not cross paths again for 10 years until Wood and Warren Beatty met Redford after seeing his performance in the Broadway play Sunday. Redford was on Wood's radar, and she convinced him to cast him in the role that launched his movie career. They reunited in the 1966 movie and appeared in 1972's political drama. Their last encounter was in the 1980s when Redford was trying to cast his directorial debut. Wood, whose career had cooled, coveted the role of the cold, distant mother, but Redford didn't think she was right for it. Robert Redford may well have had Natalie Wood to thank for his breakthrough Golden Globe-winning role as closeted film star Wade Lewis in * Inside Daisy Clover Star. Tragically, in 1981, Wood lost her life in circumstances that remain mysterious to this day. The multiple Academy Award nominee was on a boating trip around Catalina Island with her husband Robert Wagner and fellow actor Christopher Walken when she drowned. It's still not known how or exactly when Wood ended up in the water, but speculation has grown ever since. The loss of his friend understandably devastated Redford, and despite his reputation as a private man, he has often spoken about their connection. In addition to writing a glowing tribute to his former co-star for the network, he agreed to participate in the 2020 HBO documentary about Wood's legacy. As we delve deeper into Redford's life, it's clear that it's a journey of grit and glory. After enduring devastating loss and heartache, this legendary icon continued to rise above it all. From Broadway stages to Hollywood's brightest lights, Redford's story is more than just fame, it's a rollercoaster of triumph, resilience, and raw human spirit. Robert Redford's son, James, who was also a documentary filmmaker, environmentalist, and health advocate, followed in his father's footsteps into filmmaking, focusing on documentaries that highlighted environmental and social issues. He passed away at the age of 58 from bile duct cancer in his liver. James had suffered from liver disease for over 30 years and received 2 liver transplants in 1993. He established the non-profit James Redford Institute for Transplant Awareness to educate the public about organ and tissue donation. James produced and appeared in the 1999 HBO documentary, expressing his gratitude for life-saving transplants and drawing attention to the sacrifices made by organ donor families. His death was a devastating blow to Redford, who had already endured the heartache of losing one son. No parent should outlive one of their children, let alone 2. But that's the situation Robert Redford and his ex-wife Lola Van Wagen faced in October 2020 when their son James passed away from liver cancer at just 58 years old. James had liver problems throughout his life and underwent liver transplant surgery in 1993. In 2019, he was diagnosed with bile duct cancer while awaiting a new transplant. A year later, his wife Kyle confirmed that he'd succumbed to the disease, saying, "We're heartbroken. Many loved him, and he lived a beautiful, impactful life." Redford's activism reflects his love of nature. He has been a staunch environmentalist for decades, speaking out on issues like climate change, conservation, and renewable energy. His activism dates back to the 1970s, long before environmental issues became a mainstream concern. As a recognized environmentalist, he has served as a trustee for the Natural Resources Defense Council for over 40 years. He has been involved with landmark environmental legislation, including the Clean Air Act, and in 1975, he galvanized opposition to a coal-fired power plant in southern Utah. He founded the Institute for Resource Management in the 1980s, bringing together environmentalists and industrialists to promote sustainable development. Redford continues to promote sustainable energy and combat global warming. In 2015, he addressed 193 countries at the Union headquarters and participated in the COP21 climate conference, calling for action on climate change. He has also produced documentaries on environmental themes, and in 2005, he received the United Nations Global 500 Award for his environmental work. As a renowned actor, Robert Redford has received numerous awards and honors, including the Academy Award for Best Director for 1980 and an honorary Oscar in 2002. In 2018, he announced his retirement from acting after the release of a crime drama. Despite his retirement, Redford remains involved in filmmaking and environmental causes, ensuring his impact on American culture remains strong. His legacy is multifaceted, with his work with the Sundance Institute transforming independent film into a vital part of the global cinematic landscape. His commitment to environmental conservation and his enduring body of work ensure that his impact on American culture will last for generations.